The desks were arranged in a tidy semicircle. Construction paper family trees lined the whiteboard, some bent at the corners, others sagging with too much glue. Mr. Callahan's fifth-grade class had spent a week working on them. Parents had been emailed. Siblings had been interviewed. Pictures printed. Elijah Washington stood at the front of room 12, holding his poster board with both hands. It was simpler than most. No glitter, no stickers. Just names in black marker, neat branches drawn from the trunk up. He didn't fidget. He didn't stutter. "My name is Elijah," he began, "and this is my family tree." His voice was soft but steady. He pointed with one finger. "My mom's name is Denée. She's a nurse. That's my grandpa Charles and my grandma Yvette. They live in Baltimore. My little cousin's name is Amari. She just turned 2. He paused and pointed to a square near the top right, close to the trunk. "And this," he said, "is my dad. His name is Vin Diesel." There was a full second of silence. The kind that turns heavy, like the air itself doesn't know what to do. Then came the first chuckle. Light, uncertain. Then another, snorting this time. Someone whispered, "Fast and Furious," and giggled. Mr. Callahan, standing near his desk with a coffee mug in hand, laughed aloud. "Well," he said, eyes twinkling, "I guess we've got a celebrity in our midst." The laughter spread. Not cruel, not yet, but the kind that makes a boy shrink an inch. Elijah didn't laugh. He didn't explain. He didn't flinch. He just looked at his teacher and said, "That's what's on my tree." Callahan smirked, then gestured toward the back. "All right, Elijah, thanks for that cinematic presentation. You can take your seat." As Elijah walked back to his desk, someone near the back whispered, "Is he adopted or something?" Another kid muttered, "Bet he made that up." Elijah sat down slowly. His fingers found the edge of the desk and held it. He kept his eyes forward. Mr. Callahan called up the next student. "All right, Maddie, you're up. Let's see if your dad's a rock star." More laughter. Elijah blinked once, slowly. Outside, the leaf had started turning gold. Inside, the room smelled faintly of dry erase markers and floor wax. Posters on the wall said things like "Be kind" and "Everyone belongs." No one looked at Elijah again. Not then, but he heard everything. By the time the final bell rang, room 12A had already digested Elijah's presentation into a joke. It passed from desk to desk like a piece of gum stuck to a shoe. Half funny, half gross, impossible to ignore. As Elijah zipped up his backpack, he caught a whisper behind him. "But he thinks his uncle's the Rock, too." He didn't turn around. He just pulled the zipper slowly, listening. He heard the soft thunk of someone slapping a locker, followed by giggles that didn't quite reach the hallway. In the bus line, Maddie turned to him. "Did you mean like for pretend? Or was that just your favorite actor or something?" Elijah didn't answer. He just shifted his backpack higher on his shoulder and stared past her. She blinked. "Okay," she mumbled, and turned away. That night, at home, the apartment was warm but dim. His mom hadn't turned on the overhead lights. She was sitting at the kitchen table sorting mail when he walked in. She looked up and smiled, tired but genuine. "Hey, baby. How was school?" Elijah dropped his bag near the door. "Okay. You eat?" He nodded. "Yeah." He didn't say anything else. Not about the joke. Not about the way Callahan had said cinematic, like it was a punchline. Not about the meme someone had made in math class. Elijah's face next to a picture of Vin Diesel with the caption "Family means fabrication." Instead, he opened a fridge and grabbed a string cheese. Denée watched him quietly. She didn't push. Not yet. Later that night, when Elijah was brushing his teeth, she finally asked from the doorway, "You sure everything's okay at school?" He shrugged. "Yeah, just did my presentation." "Your family tree?" He nodded, mouth full of toothpaste. She waited until he spat. "Did you say Marcus?" He hesitated, then said no. She tilted her head. "Who'd you put?" Elijah's voice was small. "Vin." Denée didn't laugh. She didn't smile. She just studied his face for a long moment and said, "I see." There was a pause, a fragile quiet. Then she walked away without saying anything else. But 10 minutes later, her phone buzzed. She stood in the hallway, thumb hovering over the message field. "You free tomorrow?" She typed. "We got a situation." Oak Terrace Elementary looked friendlier than it felt. The walls were painted soft blue, and the office smelled like lemon-scented disinfectant. A bulletin board near the front desk read "Diversity makes us stronger" in cut-out bubble letters. Denée Washington sat across from Vice Principal Harrow, whose smile was polished like the rest of her. Pearl earrings, navy blazer, kind voice that somehow always sounded like a dismissal wrapped in understanding. "I appreciate you coming in," Harrow said. "Mr. Callahan mentioned a small misunderstanding yesterday." Denée kept her face neutral. "My son said his father is Vin Diesel." Mr. Callahan responded by mocking him in front of the class. Then let the class laugh. Harrow smiled again. "Right. I believe Mr. Callahan thought Elijah was making a joke. Sometimes students, especially at that age, embellish a little for attention." "Did he ask Elijah to clarify?" There was a pause. "I'm not sure." "Did he apologize?" Another pause. Harrow folded her hands. "We certainly don't condone teasing in the classroom. I can assure you that we'll speak to Mr. Callahan about tone and sensitivity." Denée leaned forward, her voice quiet but sharp. "Let's not pretend this is about tone. My son made a statement about his family, and a white adult in authority decided it was a lie worth laughing at. That's not misunderstanding. That's dismissal." Harrow blinked. Her smile thinned. "I understand how this might have been upsetting." "It wasn't Mike," Denée said. "It was. And I'm not here to explain why. I'm here to tell you Elijah told the truth." Harrow raised an eyebrow gently. "So, Vin Diesel is my son's godfather. My best friend, Marcus Washington, is a former stunt coordinator. He worked with Vin during filming years ago. They stayed close. Vin is part of Elijah's life. Elijah calls Marcus dad sometimes, but when he talks about family, Vin's name is there. Because he shows up, not as an actor, as a man." The room fell silent. Harrow shifted in her seat. "I see. That context wasn't known to us. Did anyone ask?" Denée said. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. "I'd like Mr. Callahan to apologize. Directly. Not an email. Not a note." "I can pass that request along," Harrow said. Denée stood. "Do more than pass it along. Fix it." She walked out without waiting for a reply. Outside, she paused in the hallway. Room 12's door was shut. She could hear Callahan's voice, warm, joking, carrying easily through the wall. She looked at the floor, then turned and walked out. Marcus arrived just after dinner, the familiar knock on the door. Two slow, one quick. Elijah opened it without a word, stepping aside to let him in. Marcus grinned. "Hey, eh." Elijah shrugged. "Hey." He dropped his eyes and padded back to the couch. Marcus followed, eased down beside him, and handed over a slim photo album, the black leather cover worn at the corners. "What's this?" Elijah asked. "Little history lesson," Marcus said, "since apparently some folks think your truth is fiction." Elijah opened the book. The first picture was old, maybe 10 years back. A group shot on a movie set. Big rigs, a dusty lot, the sun low in the background. There stood Marcus, younger, leaner, with a headset around his neck and a clipboard in hand. Next to him, unmistakably, was Vin Diesel, arms slung casually across Marcus's shoulder. Both were grinning like brothers in crime. "I was on the stunt crew for the fourth movie," Marcus said. "Did some coordination, some driving sequences. Vin and I hit it off. He liked that I didn't kiss his ass." Elijah turned the page. Another photo, Marcus holding a baby. Elijah, barely 2, bundled in blue. Vin stood beside them, looking down with a smile that was real. Not posed. Just there. "You don't talk about this stuff much," Elijah said. Marcus leaned back. "Because it's not about who he is to the world. It's who he is to us." There was a pause. They laughed. Elijah said quietly, "Like I made it up." Marcus's jaw tensed. "I know. Even Mr. Callahan. I know." Elijah swallowed. "Do you think I shouldn't have said it?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "I think you said what was true." Elijah's voice cracked a little. "But they didn't believe me." Marcus said, "There are people in this world who will only believe what fits their picture. A black boy says his dad is a famous white actor? Doesn't compute. So they laugh. Because they don't want to consider the world might be bigger than their assumptions." Elijah stared at the photo album. "I didn't say he raised me. Just said he was my dad. And you meant it, Marcus said. Because he shows up, calls you on your birthday, sends you books, video chats when he's filming. That counts. You don't need anyone's permission to call someone your father. Elijah closed the book gently. Next time they laugh, Marcus said, let them. You got truth. They got jokes. Truth stays. Jokes fade. Elijah looked up. His voice was calm now. Can I take this to school? Marcus smiled. You sure? Elijah nodded. I don't want to prove it. I just want to carry it. For me. Monday morning, Elijah walked into room 12A with the photo album in his backpack. He didn't plan to show it, not right away. He just wanted it near. Like armor you didn't have to use unless the arrows flew. Mr. Callahan didn't look at him when he entered. Just muttered, "Morning," while writing on the board. The class had already moved on to the next unit, persuasive writing. Pick a topic you feel strongly about, Callahan said. Could be school uniforms, video games, whatever. Your voice matters. Elijah listened. He wondered what Callahan thought his voice had sounded like last week. He wrote the title slowly at the top of his notebook, Invisible Seatbelts. His pencil hovered for a moment. Then he began. Some people keep you safe without anyone else seeing it. They don't have to shout or tell everyone. They just hold you still when the world throws you forward. Like seatbelts. Silent, locked, steady. My dad doesn't live with us. He's not in pictures on the fridge. But he shows up when it counts. And sometimes that's all the proof there is. He paused, then added, some people say that's not enough. But they're usually the ones who never needed holding. He looked up. Mr. Callahan was making rounds, leaning over desks, nodding at some students, correcting others. When he reached Elijah's desk, he stopped. What's this? He asked, tapping the title. Seatbelts. It's about my dad, Elijah said. For the assignment. Callahan frowned faintly, then gave a brief, dismissive nod. Just make sure you have a clear argument, and maybe avoid metaphors you can't explain. He moved on without another word. Elijah stared at his paper. Outside the window, the trees had lost more of their leaves. The wind was picking up. Fall was pressing in. At lunch, he sat alone. Not because no one invited him. Maddie had waved him over half-heartedly, but because he didn't feel like translating himself for anyone today. He opened the photo album under the table. Just for a minute. Just enough to see the picture of Marcus holding him. Just enough to breathe slower. A group of kids passed by. One of them muttered, "Still think you're related to Groot?" Elijah closed the album. Didn't look up. Didn't flinch. It was a Wednesday, the kind of day that felt like the middle of a sentence. The sky was the same dull gray it had been all week. Inside room 12A, the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. Mr. Callahan paced the room, clipboard in hand. Who want to share their persuasive piece? He asked, scanning the class. This is how writers grow, reading out loud. Finding your voice. A few hands went up. Elijah's stayed down. He waited. 2 students read their essays, one about banning homework, another about why cats were superior to dogs. Light clapping followed each. Callahan smiled, nodding, making notes. Then Elijah raised his hand. Callahan blinked. Yes, Elijah. I want to read mine. The class quieted. A few heads turned. Elijah didn't often speak up unless called on. He walked slowly to the front, paper in hand. No photo album, no proof. Just the words. He didn't look at Mr. Callahan. He didn't need to. He began. Some people are invisible unless you need them. They don't get awards. They don't have titles. But they're the reason you don't fall apart when everything else breaks. I have someone like that. He doesn't live in my house. He doesn't have the same last name. He's not in the school directory. But he's my dad. He's been in my life since I could walk. He teaches me how to stay calm when people try to shrink me. He sends me books and asks what I think of them. He listens. And sometimes he brings me cookies and never asks for one back. Some people think family has to look a certain way. Same blood, same house, same skin. But families are made, not just born. My dad didn't have to be there. He chose to be. So when I say my dad is Vin Diesel, I don't mean the man on the screen. I mean the man who showed me what strength looks like when it's quiet. And if that doesn't fit someone's storybook, that's okay. Because it fits mine. When Elijah finished, he folded the paper neatly. He didn't look up right away. The room was still, not silent like confusion, silent like understanding. Mr. Callahan cleared his throat. Thank you, Elijah. That was poetic. For future reference, try to keep persuasive writing more structured. But nice work. Elijah nodded once, walked back to his seat. Behind him, someone murmured, that was actually kind of dope. Another voice whispered, that line about strength? That was hard. He didn't turn, didn't grin, but he sat a little straighter. Outside, the wind had stilled. For the first time in days, a sliver of sunlight slipped through the clouds. Career day came 2 weeks later. Room 12A was buzzing. Parents and name tags shuffled in and out. A dentist with a plastic molar model, a realtor passing out branded pens, a tech consultant trying to explain blockchain to 10-year-olds. Mr. Callahan looked unusually cheerful. Let's thank Mrs. Patel for teaching us about dental hygiene, everyone. Light applause. Then the door opened again. Marcus stepped in. He wasn't wearing a suit, just jeans and a soft gray sweater, sleeves pushed to the elbow. He carried a small duffel bag and a manila folder. Mr. Callahan blinked. And you are? Elijah Washington's father, Marcus said evenly. Marcus. He didn't say Godfather. He didn't qualify. He just said father. Callahan hesitated, then gestured to the front. All right, Marcus, you're up. Marcus stood before the class with the comfort of someone who didn't need the room to like him. I'm in film, he said. Stunt coordination. Sometimes second unit directing. I work with actors to make action scenes look good without getting anybody killed. A few kids perked up. You've worked with famous people? Someone asked. Marcus smiled. A few. He pulled out a photo and passed it around. Elijah recognized it. The one from the album. Him, as a toddler, Marcus holding him, Vin Diesel beside them, arms crossed, both grinning. Mr. Callahan froze when it reached him. A few students gasped. That's really Vin Diesel? Yeah, Marcus said. He's family, but not because he's famous, because he never stopped showing up. He turned to Elijah. You all heard a story a few weeks back. I heard about it too. Elijah's heart thumped in his chest. Marcus held up a sheet of paper. It's a letter, he said. From Vin. He heard what happened. Asked me to deliver this. Callahan shifted behind his desk. Marcus read. To Elijah, you don't need a big screen or a spotlight to prove your truth. I've known you since you were smaller than the toy cars in Fast 5. And I've watched you grow stronger than anyone expected. Anyone who doubts he doesn't know what family really means. And they're missing out. Love always. Vin. The room was utterly silent. Elijah sat still, but something inside him came unaudit. Mr. Callahan cleared his throat. Well, that was unexpected. Marcus met his eyes. What's unexpected is a teacher laughing at a child who told the truth. Callahan opened his mouth, then closed it. Marcus turned to the class. Any questions? Every hand went up. By Friday, word had spread. Not officially. Oak Terrace didn't put those things in newsletters, but people knew. Teachers whispered. Parents texted. Someone's older sibling had uploaded a blurry video of Marcus reading Vin Diesel's letter, and though it was quickly taken down, it had already made its rounds. Mr. Callahan wasn't in class the next week. The sub said he was on professional leave. No one said more than that. Elijah didn't ask. He came to school like always. Sat in his usual seat. Turned in his homework. When classmates spoke to him, he answered. When they didn't, he didn't try to make them. A few kids started treating him differently. Not with awe, but with caution. Like maybe they'd missed something about him before. Like maybe the quietest kid in class had always been carrying something heavier than they'd seen. Maddie approached him at recess. Your dad's letter was cool, she said. Elijah nodded. Thanks. I didn't know you actually knew him. I do, Elijah said simply. Maddie hesitated, then said, Your story, it made me think about mine different. He didn't smile, but his voice softened. That's good. They stood in silence a moment. It wasn't awkward, just real. That afternoon, Marcus pulled up to the school in his old silver pickup. Elijah climbed in. The photo album was on the seat beside him, closed but present. "How was your day?" Marcus asked. "Quiet," Elijah said. "You okay with that?" Elijah buckled his seatbelt. "Yeah, some things don't need noise." Marcus looked over, nodded once, and pulled away from the curb. They drove past the park, past the coffee shop where Denée sometimes met other nurses after shifts. The town was the same. The buildings hadn't moved, but Elijah felt taller in his seat. Not because anything outside had changed, because he had. They stopped at a red light. Marcus glanced over. "You hungry?" "A little." "All right then. Let's get something." The light turned green. They moved forward.